alaikum everyone. Thank you for joining our live event. Today's event is titled Womanhood, an in-depth analysis of femininity in Islam with Sister Sahar Jaber. Unfortunately, this is the last event of the series as Sha'ban is now coming to a close and we welcome Ramadan next week. We also have the last event of the series with Sheikh Ja'far Hamoud on Thursday titled Reconnecting with Allah. So please join us for that on Thursday. Today's event is particularly important and relevant as we all know about the recent changes in the law in France that bans the hijab for anyone under the age of 18, and this strips Muslim girls of their right to freedom. And it's crucial that Muslim women and girls know their rights in Islam, but equally that their brothers and their fathers and their friends and siblings all know about the female rights in Islam also. I'd like to mention that if you have any questions during the event, please put them in the comments below, and hopefully you'll get a chance at the end to answer the question. I'm going to give a brief introduction to Sister Sahar before we go live with her. So Sister Sahar Jaber was born and raised in Ontario, Canada. She completed a double honours in sociology and communications. She resides in Lebanon, where she studied a few years of Islamic studies with the pursuit to create an impact in Muslim children's literature. She started her own publications company known as Figs and Olives Publication. She recently published her first book titled But Why is the Hijab So Special? This book aims to educate and inspire young females and males about the hijab. The main goal of the publishing company is to provide reliable and educational resources for parents and children to build a strong Islamic foundation. Her dreams and aspirations in life are to empower the Muslim generation through literature and knowledge. So I'd now like to invite Sister Sahar to start the live event.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure, as always. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the background work.
Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll get more opportunities to do series like these in the future, but unfortunately Sha'ban is now coming to an end. So yeah, I'd like to hand over to you now.
Thank you. So, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ali baytihi tayyibin at-tahirin. Today, of course, is the last day of our presentation. But it's an honor to be here with everyone. I'm just going to quickly fix something with the sharing screen. Okay, that's better. So today is the third event in which we discuss a lot about marriage, the responsibilities, each other's roles. Today's main idea was the obligations of females in Islam, and I just wanted to bring it into better perspective. So I decided to actually discuss it more as in summarizing key marriage females' role within a marriage. And hopefully this way it can actually bring what we've learned in the first two sessions all together. Discuss 2 points. If we just discuss what the role of marriage is, it would be that it's companionship and reproduction. Just the idea of having someone that you're with throughout your life, and then you're also going to be able to have a kin, and so you reproduce as a species. But if we were to discuss it in this manner, then there's actually no difference between us and animals. We wouldn't be able to contribute anything to the community or to society or even psychologically other than the thoughts of what really makes us different than animals at that point, if this is how we view marriage. So obviously the animal's sole purpose on this earth is to actually eat, drink, reproduce, to serve human needs, and perish. and serve human needs, as in provide us with meat, as in protein, provide us with milk, provide us with wool. Their bones are used for our usage, and practically every single animal on earth can serve us a certain way through God's mercy. But in the end, they're going to perish. And so, is that really the same purpose that we have? And when it comes to define the man's status, it's so much higher than just these deeds. Of course we eat, and of course we drink, and we reproduce. But we reproduce and we eat under a certain intention. If your intention is not that I'm going to be eating and drinking and growing and build a family so that they can serve Allah and so that they can be a representation of Islam on this earth, then your intention for eating and drinking is incorrect. And your intention for actually having a wife or a husband is incorrect. And if it isn't in a higher degree that you see the importance of what a marriage serves you, then you have to reevaluate what you find as important and where you place your priority and hierarchy. So man is a creature that is eternal. Our soul, of course, has a beginning and it has an end. However, this eternal being of our soul is what we take to heaven and to earth. Ultimately, our body, its beginning and its end is on this earth. And this body does not move to the other realm, does not go to heaven or to earth. It stays on this realm. Even on the Day of Judgment, when we come out of our graves, or if, inshallah, if we are of the servants of Imam al-Mahdi, and we come out of our graves, then we know our soul has came back into our body on this earth. However, this body's role is merely that which stays on this earth. And so ultimately, you need to make sure your eternal soul has a greater purpose, and that is to achieve nearness to Allah, to consider Allah as your creator. However, to also see God in that mercy and in that light of forgiveness and kindness. And so our human being, our essence of being a human being, is that we need to follow the implementations of the programs set by the religion of Islam. The religion of Islam is a lifestyle, and we've heard this a lot, that it encompasses everything that you need in your life. And if you were to just reflect on this, you'd see that Islam provides you with an understanding of what to do with your money, an understanding of what to do with your saved income, of how to reproduce, of how to actually get married, of how to divorce, of what to do in moments of grief, and what to do of moments of pleasure. And this idea that Islam is actually encompassing of everything, and it's actually a legislation that you can live by, provides you with a guidebook as to what to do in your life. It tells you, if you were to get married to this type of person. Do not try and get married to this person. See that you make sure that you provide her with a dowry, that you provide her with her due rights before you get married. Make sure that both of you guys are on the same page before you get married. Create a guideline, a contract. Also create a guideline and contract in case you guys get divorced. What if that person dies? This is all encompassed under the idea of Islam, and that's why it's so beautiful, is we are not lost. Muslims are never lost on this earth. We know what to do with our certain trials and certain ceremonies. We always reference books, and this beauty of actually following a guideline provides a lot of relief for a lost traveler on this journey on earth. Of course, the main essence of what a human being has to do is actually gain knowledge, is to be critical, is to think, is to actually pursue that idea that I am not sufficient with the amount of knowledge that I have right now. And it is only until you gain knowledge, you will realize how small you are and how much you actually know nothing of anything. Because when you learn, you become thirsty for more. You realize how big of of how small of an entity you are in comparison to how big Allah is. And it's such a beautiful feeling to feel that humble and to feel that small in comparison to your Lord. The human being is actually meant to behave in a good manner. You are meant to be able to control your desires, to control that which does not suit you, but at the same time, to use those desires in a manner to serve Allah and to become closer to Allah. The human being is also supposed to find guidance in the prophets. The prophets are not to go against contemporary belief that the prophets are perfect and we are unable to become perfect like the prophets. That's incorrect. The prophet's ability to reach perfection is something we can become inspired by, and it is only through individuals such as Shahid Hadi that we see that it is possible for a human being, Shahid Hadi Ibrahim, it is possible for an individual to actually become perfect in their own rights. And through inspiring and following incredible people such as the prophets and Ahlul Bayt, you are able to actually see the importance of them within your life, of actually seeing the story of Prophet Yusuf or seeing the story of Prophet Ibrahim and see how you can apply certain attributes within your own life. So the human being is also meant to commit good and forbid evil. And this as well in reference to marriage is that your partner is your responsibility. The wife has a responsibility to make sure that her husband does not have attributes of being stingy or of being rude or of being aggressive. And the husband also has the rights on his wife to make sure that she is not being a pleaser for this world, or to not be jealous, or to not be envious. He has that role and you have that role. You also have the other role of actually making sure that you become closer to Allah together, to make your companionship that in which the presence of the angels is always at your house, such as eating pomegranates on Friday, making sure that you did a grocery list and eating pomegranates before eating anything else on Friday. To also make sure that candles are lit on Thursday nights, and that Thursday nights are for Dua Kumail. It's a family time to read Dua Kumail. To make sure as well that you wake each other up for Salat al-Lail or Salat al-Subh. This committing good and forbidding evil, when you see that your marriage is actually under these forms of context, your eternal being is that the marriage is actually what determines if you'd go to heaven or hell, everything changes. The beauty of it is that you become more respectful, and you actually appreciate what your marriage stands for. So ultimately, to secure happiness in this world and the hereafter is to strive in this world to achieve the next world. Our strive should be together. It should truly be that idea that we are on this earth struggling together, but when we reach to heaven, when we reach the gates of paradise, we can smile and move into heaven together, knowing that we took each other into heaven. We helped support each other. So the aim of marriage should be in the search of a spiritual context. This search never ends. If your first goal within the spiritual context of your marriage is that, let's say, my husband made it clear to me that I have a lying problem. I say too many white lies. I can't say the truth. It's difficult. I'm afraid. I feel threatened if I were to say the truth. This understanding now becomes the first goal that you have within your marriage. I need to fix my relationship with my husband so that we can have a better understanding, a better environment, an environment that's safe, that I feel comfortable in, so that when I actually do something wrong, I don't actually lie, and I can actually contribute and say the truth to him. Having a partner with the understanding of muwadda wa rahma, muwadda being that you physically show your love, and rahma being that you're merciful, will actually allow you to achieve your spiritual goal. And once you achieve the spiritual goal, well, now you have at least 1,000 in front of you to actually correct as well. And so there's this constant idea of moving forward, of searching for the next thing that you need to accomplish. The way your desires work is that once something becomes متمكنة, once you become fully capable in something. So for example, if someone, he has no issue, he detests music. Music does not actually fulfill them the same way someone else does. If they were to listen to music, they become instantly in love with it and they can't stop listening to that rap song. However, someone else, if they were to listen to rap music, they just turn it off right away. It means nothing to them. But let's say something else comes in front of them, such as a makeup product, mascara, or let's see, something like contour or blush, and they're so intrigued to actually use it. This actually becomes a point of tribulation for them. And so after this point, they have to make sure that they are able to overcome that tribulation. And once they overcome it, it's not going to affect them anymore in the same manner that it did a few months ago. But now, however, something else will affect them, something else will impact them. There's this one story of a man praying, and the shaitan is having a conversation with another shaitan, in which he says, I've been trying to make this man stop praying and to focus on something else. And so I tried to tempt him with lust, and it did not work. I tried to tempt him with music, with money, with clothing, and nothing worked. The other shaitan then sent another human being to go and worship right beside him. And this other human being started worshiping night and day more than the other one. The shaitan then said, I'm going to tempt him with his religion. And so this person worshiping beside him, because he started worshiping in a very beautiful voice and he started acting very pious, this man started to feel inferior. He started to feel as if his worship meant nothing. And so the shaitan knew where his desires were. The shaitan knew where his temptations were, and he attacked that point. It was his religion. It was his ability to showcase to the world of how religious and pious he is. And so this is the understanding that we have to meet. Even though you overcome a form of desire and temptation, you should always be alert and aware that there's another form of desire and temptation that you might have your guards down in. And so you need to marry to acquire nearness to God. Unfortunately, in our society right now, the reasons why, you'd ask a girl, why do you want to get married? She might tell you, I want to be in love. I want a man to travel the world with. I want someone to take care of me financially. I don't feel like working anymore. She'll tell you about worldly desires and monetary forms of pleasures. But the true essence of why you want to get married is really because you want to become near to Allah. It's because you want that partner to drag you closer to Allah with them, to hold your hand and to see only God in front of you guys. And that's really when a lot of girls say that they want, what's the terminology? I want a cool Muslim, or I want, like just a moderate Muslim, someone that prays and fasts, alhamdulillah. He doesn't pray Salat al-Subh, but he prays, and he gives charity sometimes, but he listens to music. Also, he lets me wear whatever clothes I want. He doesn't care about if I put makeup on. He doesn't even care if I actually go to a shisha lounge, etc. Some girls actually search for men like this. It's so common. I've heard it so much in front of me. But it's really hysterical, honestly, because what are you searching for? Are you actually asking for characteristics in which displease God, in which will not bring you closer to God? Are you asking for an individual that openly says, I do not mind going against God's wishes? I do not mind to actually break God's laws? If you are, then you're ultimately asking for someone who bijarra Allah. He's able to look God in the eye and say that, you know what, I don't care about your religion. I want to do it the way I want to do it. I want to perform my Islam the way I seek pleasure in. And if this is truly the man that you are searching for within a marriage, then know one day, just as he displeases worshiping God and making God happy from him, he will one day also turn to you and become displeased with actually making you happy and assert your rights. Because no one who actually does not fear God will fear everything else. Because he does not fear God, he will also not fear anything else in this world, other than, of course, that which serves his ego and his self. And so you have to make sure that that's an individual that you take as a spouse, for men and for women. That individual that you take needs to be a source of encouragement for you to become better and closer to Allah. A person went to the Prophet. It's such a beautiful story. And he said that I have a wife who welcomes me when I come home and escorts me to the door when I leave. When she finds me sad and unhappy, she then, by consoling me, says, if you are thinking of sustenance, then do not despair, because Allah provides sustenance. And if you are thinking about the next life, then may Allah increase your intellect and efforts. In other words, she's saying, may Allah actually make you even more afraid of the hereafter. Because surely being afraid of the hereafter is actually extremely important. The Prophet then said that this spouse of yours actually functions as an agent of ours on this world. And your wife is a woman that will be rewarded half of as much as a martyr. And so this can become a jihad for a woman. She can become able to actually get the immense award of that in which is served on the battlefield or within the self. Another story is that on the wedding night of Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, the Prophet the next day came to Imam Ali and he asked him, how did you find Sayyidah Fatima? Imam Ali then says, الزوجة نعم العون على طاعة الله. He says, she, Sayyidah Fatima, is the best helper for obedience and service to God. What incredible words to describe Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra. Because he really summarized Sayyidah Fatima here in 2 words. He said that she is the best of helper for obedience and service to God. He said that number 1, her role as my companion is that she will help me reach to God in an easier, more efficient way. And another thing about her is that she is of true service to God. She is of true essence to God. And this truly should be our motto within why we marry and how we get married. So love is actually never love at first sight. Love as a concept in itself is not everlasting. That's why a lot of people say, we were married and when I first met him, we had this connection. And then all of a sudden, after 5 years of marriage, I don't love him anymore. There's nothing that attracts me to him anymore. It's because they're focusing too much on something that does not exist on its own. So you have your variables, correct? Such as you need him to be caring. You need him to have kindness. You need him to have respect. And when you put these all together, you're able to actually achieve love. Love is an outcome. Love is not a variable on its own. You cannot take love and add it to kindness and then create love. No, love is actually something that is resulted from what you put together. So his small forms of actually caring for you, such as him just, asking you if you need any help today. Sit down, let me do the dishes tonight. Did you want to watch a movie together? I want us to go to a restaurant together alone without the kids, etc. You look very beautiful today and you're just literally wearing a PJ. These forms of love is so important because this is actually what creates love. This kindness, this respect, you honoring him in his presence, such as you saying he's such a great husband to me in his presence, and also you saying that behind his back to your friends and to your family. Honestly, honoring and respect is what a lot of girls lack, men and females lack in this day and age. They do not respect their husband enough, and the husband does not respect the female enough. They do not respect each other's equal role, his role as being the breadwinner and her role as being the home caregiver. These roles are not respected, and because the roles are not respected, they then start doing each other's roles so that they can get the other person's attention. The female starts going to the labor so that she can get the man's attention, that you know what, you should respect me because I also have monetary value. The man then also tells the female, I'm not going to contribute in the household chores because this is not of my manly attributes. Therefore, you should respect me. They're not understanding the point. The point is, you perform your roles and she performs her roles so that you guys can have a better and happier life. If your life is not happier and better, then you guys are doing something wrong with your roles. When the man contributes financially, and let's say, unfortunately, in our day and age, the female and the male has to work. It's actually pretty impossible right now in Canada. Let's say I live in Canada. I don't know about UK, but in Canada, if you were going to rent, it's going to cost you at least 2,000 to rent. That's without water and food, which is at least 1,500. Then you have your child. And then if you want to put them in a private school for Islamic school, you have another 5K in front of you. It's pretty impossible for only the man to actually have a good income. The female now needs to contribute as well, most of the cases. And so what actually starts to happen is the man might start to understand something incorrect. The female's role in working in the labor and actually providing an income for the family, that's out of her greatness and her love. That's out of her magnanimity and character. She's doing an incredible job being there to support the man, but that's not her role. That's not her obligation. You actually owe her, and she can actually tell you, I want this money back at a later time. Therefore, if her role in the labor market actually jeopardizes her role in the household, because that's actually where she should actually flourish as a mother and as a wife, then the man also has to be understanding that she cannot perform each role equally, that he actually now has to take some characteristics and roles from hers so that they can become at equilibrium. If he doesn't not want to actually support her in the family at all, then he has to understand that maybe he has to go get a second job or go find more income. But it's not her role to actually provide an income whatsoever. And so this understanding that there's shared real income based on necessity, and that if a female actually attributes to your role and is taking a load off of your role, then you should also support her and take a load off of her role. Now, a caution, a disclaimer for the females. There's certain roles that should be done by a female that kind of remove from the manlyhood of a man. And so you just got to be cautious. What role actually allows him to be a man and still support the family? And I don't want this to be understood in any way. The man is allowed to cook, and the man is allowed to help in cleaning. It just means that, for example, there's a story of Imam Ali, who came outside of Fatima al-Zahra. What do you want me to help with? The kids need help. The kids were very young at that time. Do you want me to help you with the kids, or do you want me to do this kitchen role? Sayyidah Fatima then told him, I will take care of the kids if you can please perform this kitchen role. And so Imam Ali then did that role. So that understanding is that Sayyidah Fatima felt like the kids needed her nurturing, her support more than for Imam Ali to go and take care of the kids. Another story of seeing the importance of actually taking each other's role, a time where Prophet Muhammad came into the house of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, and he saw that Sayyidah Fatima was picking the mahat, the grains, I believe it's called, or wheat, and Imam Ali was doing a different chore. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, then told them, who needs more help? Who is more tired so that I can support and help them? Imam Ali told Prophet Muhammad, Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra has been working from the morning. If you can, please take her role. And so Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, then took Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra's chore, and Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra rested or worshipped or just took a moment to take a break while men were working. And so it's a story to actually learn from, of how shared responsibilities should be. So again, to emphasize, there are roles. However, it's not black and white, and each role must be respected. of the obligations of a spouse is kindness. And the reason why I say kindness is because every single human being flourishes in kindness. We grow out of kindness. If you do not actually provide the female with kindness, she becomes very incapable to perform an action. Similarly for the man. The revolutionary leader of Iran, he said that the woman's heart is actually like a glass. Once you say something mean or rude to her, it gets scratched and it gets hard to actually fix. Because she holds that against you, that you called me this name, you said this to me. And there's a certain part in her heart that actually gets hurt from. And so it's very important that both spouses understand the importance of kindness. When you leave your parents' house, if you lived in let's say a perfect world, your parents were supposed to provide you kindness throughout their life. And now that you leave your parents' house, your spouse is supposed to fill their role. It's for a lot of females that spouses like I know a lot of females who left in Hausa, in Lebanon, a lot of men who actually go to study Hausa and they bring their wives from outside. Their husband actually now becomes not only their husband, but because they're in a foreign land, most of them lived in America or Germany or Australia all their whole life. And now coming to Lebanon, into a small village where there's literally cows and sheep walking in front of you, and there's not enough electricity and not enough water and not enough anything. Now this husband actually has to take the role of not only being a husband, but a mother, a father, an aunt, a sister, a best friend. He has to take that whole role. And similarly for the wife, because they left their whole life to go and live with this person. And so this person has to understand that this person now changed their whole life for me, and I need to provide them with that kindness and that support. And so the Prophet, peace be upon him, says, the best of you among women are those that possess love and affection. And such a beautiful narration from our dear Prophet. وَعَشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and consort with them, your wives, in kindness. Discuss the topic in gentleness, and not to be double standard, not to be this individual that's so easy to talk to outside, but when it comes to actually talking to, like in the household, the man is actually not that nice person in the family. You know, the kids actually feel like they can't talk to their father. And of the roles of being a leader is that you know how to talk to your participants, to the people that you are leading. You know how to actually discuss things with them. The Prophet of Allah stated, the more one becomes faithful, the more one expresses kindness to his spouse. So to be kind is truly to be religious. And of the obligations of a spouse is also to respect. So imagine when someone comes into your house and you're just greeting them. You stand up, you wear the best clothing, you look a very presentable manner, you greet them, you ask them how your day was, you make them feel special, you tell them how much you miss them, and you greet them into your house. And this is actually how the Prophet wants us to greet our spouse. He wants us to go through that extra effort so that we can actually make sure that they feel comfortable and that they feel respected. Sorry, someone's coming to my door. Sorry, they just left a package, it's fine. So it does not matter how much love you may proclaim to have. So it does not matter that you actually tell them, you know, I have so much love for you, I respect you so much, but in reality, you never even profess this love through household chores or through just the little things. You need to make sure that you're always in that understanding of physically professing this love. And so the Prophet again here says the duty of a woman is to answer the call at the door and to welcome her husband, because there's this beauty in it that actually stays with the husband of respect. And that's actually one of the key characteristics that a husband has to do, that a wife has to do towards her husband, is to respect him a lot. at a very high degree. Of course, the husband must respect the female, but I'm talking about what's extremely important for the husband is that respect, is that idea that my wife respects me. That understanding that if a wife does not respect her husband, leads to a lot of issues and problems in the community. Even though, of course, it's so important that the man also respects the female, but there's a certain attribute to the husband holding respect at a higher degree than everything else. And so the Prophet of Islam here says that the prayer of a woman who teases her husband with her tongue are not accepted by Allah, even if she fasts every day, gets up to act worship at night, she sets a few slaves for free and donates her wealth. A bad-tongued woman who hurts her husband in this way is the first person who enters hell. So we have to be cautious as females to not be verbally abusing our husband as well. And again, likewise, the husband has to be conscious as well. The Prophet here states that no one would respect women except the magnanimous one, and no one would insult them except the ignoble one. And so also the Prophet here says whoever insults his family would lose happiness in his life. And so it really does take a real man to respect a woman. So the role of a female in a marriage is the prosperity of the happiness as well as the misery is in her hands. She needs to understand that when she is sad or when she is not feeling okay, that actually is going to affect the whole family environment. And we can reflect on personal experiences that instantly when the mother is happy, the whole house is just a beautiful, enjoyable place. But when the mother is angry and constantly nervous and worried, then again, the family is not. And this is not entirely the female's fault. The man has to make sure that he has provided enough ability for the female to actually not take on more than she can handle. That she is actually in the position in which she can be comfortable and relaxed as well. So it's important that the husband sees the happiness of his wife, also of his responsibility. That maybe I need to make my wife's life easier in some manner, in some form. Maybe she does need paid support, paid service. Maybe she needs a vacation from time to time. That's his husband's responsibility to also make sure that the female does not get burnt out through stress, of course. And so, of course, the female's obligation is that she provides intimacy and asking permission to leave. Those are the two obligations that will never leave or usut or stop being applied to the female. But apart from these, the mandatory role of the husband is the finance, and hers is the family household. And we've discussed this thoroughly. Something very important is never to actually make your spouse God. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of girls or men put the spouse at such a high degree that it's the spouse and then it's God's opinion. So if my spouse likes me to wear makeup, I'm going to be doing that in public so that I can attract his opinion. Or if he actually wants me to remove the hijab, then la hawla wa la quwwa. He told me I have to remove the hijab and I have to be obedient to my husband, so I'm going to take off the hijab. It's not like that. If your husband is actually telling you, let's do something haram, let's put some music for me, please. You're actually supposed to tell him, no, I do not need to obey you. I do not need to listen to your command. Opposed to common belief is that if the husband is telling you something that's haram, then you have to tell him, no, I will not commit it and I will not do it. It's always Allah's command, and then it's your spouse's. If your spouse is telling you you're not allowed to talk to your parents, you're not allowed to visit them, he's not allowed to do that. They're your silat rahim. There's someone that you have to be in contact with within a certain period of time. He's not allowed. It's haram for him to actually tell you to do something like that. And so it's important to always understand that although you put your spouse at a very high importance, make sure it's God, and I would even put Ahlul Bayt and the prophets, and like Islam, ultimately Islam, and then I'll put the husband. That's how your hierarchy has to be. So now just to discuss some important figures in Islam to inspire the females out there. Generally, when we discuss important figures. We always talk about their achievements of monetary support, of how much wealth they had, of what they were able to do to society. But really, what we should talk about is their role of a mother. Their role in sometimes, not always, but the role sometimes as a wife. And when we see this quote by Prophet Muhammad, which says, the great women of paradise are four: Sayyidah Maryam, Sayyidah Fatima, Sayyidah Khadija, and Sayyidah Asya. If we were to just bring into perspective these four ladies, let me just very, very, very briefly summarize each individual. Sayyidah Maryam did not have a husband. She was raised by her uncle, the Prophet, in a temple, in a synagogue. She was raised between men in a synagogue that actually forced her to cook and clean and act as a slave. Yet she was taken care of by God, and she knew who God was. And what God actually asked her to do was to be a lady that will be known for her mother characteristics, for her ability to actually give birth to Jesus without being married, without ever having lost through intimacy. And so it's so important to actually see Sayyidah Maryam as this mother figure, that Allah, created a prophethood through her lineage without a man, with his capability. When we look at Sayyidah Fatima, we see that Sayyidah Fatima is actually Al Muhammad. When we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad, that Al Muhammad is actually Sayyidah Fatima, because the kinship of Prophet Muhammad is Sayyidah Fatima. Prophet Muhammad had no other children. He had no other children that, of course, lived. His only child that actually gave him a lineage was Sayyidah Fatima. And so the lineage of Prophet Muhammad is through Sayyidah Fatima, and this is a great honor for females. And of course, it's a great honor in the eyes of Allah that we should see that this incredible lineage of the Ahlul Bayt is through a female, is through that which came from Prophet Muhammad. Another important thing of Sayyidah Khadija is that we see when Sayyidah Khadija actually wanted to get married, she rejected so many amazing men that had money, that had tribes, that had armies. They were wealthy and they had history. And this was something important back then. She rejected them, not knowing what was to come. But all she knew is that she wanted a pious man that believed in one God. Again, that idea of having sacredness attached to your marriage. Upon working with Prophet Muhammad, she saw how incredible of a man he was, and so she actually asked her male servant to go to Prophet Muhammad and to propose to him. So we see this idea of a female being conscious of who she wants to get married to. If you see attributes in a man that actually serve your purpose, then there's nothing wrong in actually seeing ways to reach out to this man, of course, in a very respectable manner. But there's nothing wrong with a female actually taking things initiative into her hand so that she can secure as well a good spouse. And Sayyidah Asya, the wife of Pharaoh was the most despisable man of his time, and for a very long time. He used to believe that he was ultimately God, that he was the most powerful, and that people should obey and worship him. And yet, as his wife, she rejected all his orders to obey him. And this also stands as inspiration for a lot of females who unfortunately have unfortunate husbands. That even if you have an unfortunate husband, you have to seek patience in prayer and see ways to worship Allah and ask Allah for his help, because Allah, of course, is the one that knows of your trials and tribulations, and he can ease your help. So distasteful wives is also prominent. We also see that there was the wife of Prophet Lut and the wife of Prophet Nuh, who were terrible towards their husbands. Additionally, Imam Hassan and Imam Hadi, their wives literally poisoned and killed the Imams. And so just because you got married does not mean that you're safeguarded from all the evils in the world. Yes, you safeguarded half of your religion, but there's also the other half that you can be in desires and fall into tribulations for. So it's very important to also be cautious of that. Now, I want to just talk about two key figures that were actually not married. And so, to the females that struggle to actually find the right spouse, Sayyida Fatima bint Musa, scholars have written that she had a special gift. Of course, we know that she was the daughter of Imam al-Qadhim. And Imam al-Qadhim was actually imprisoned when she was only 2 years old, so she spent a lot of time away from her father. Yet, through her dedication and prayer, she was actually able to make herself infallible. She was not born an infallible. There's a difference between actually getting the infallibility by being born by it, such as Sayyidah Fatima or Imam Ali, and the other idea of actually attaining infallibility, such as well, we know, Abu Fadl al-Abbas. And the high status of her is that whoever visits Maqam Sayyidah Fatima Masuma, it's as if they actually visited Imam Ali Rida, her brother. And so it's important for these females that have not gotten married or have not actually gotten a spouse to be patient, to know that inshallah God has greater plans for you, and to never seek haram methods to attract a male's attention. The way in which you attract that male's attention is important, because that's the characteristics that you will attract. If you are looking for a pious man, then be pious yourself. And if you do not get married, then inshallah you serve other forms of importance to the world and to Allah. Remember that this world is only a test. And so even marriage is not something that is beautiful because it's beautiful. It's beautiful because you create it to be beautiful. And for the females that are not married, you can also create your life to be beautiful in its own right. Shahida Amina Sadr is the sister of Musa Sadr and Sayyid Musa Sadr, and she actually was not married as well. It's because she served such an important role in the community and in society that she was not able to get married. She did not have the time or the ability to actually stay at home and perform the female roles. She played that much of a fundamental role to society that it was actually obligatory on her to actually continue serving the community and serve society. At the time in which the Islamic movement in Iran was occurring, in Iraq, she was the leader of the Islamic movement. When her brother was actually taken into prison, and many of important Maraja were also taken into prison, were arrested, she went to the shrine of Imam Ali and she gave a very eloquent speech, and she told the people, what are you doing? We need to go and we need to stand and fight for our people. These people were imprisoned. We should unite and stand. And once these people went on the streets and demanded for their release, Amina and Muhammad Baqir was actually executed 3 days later because of this, because of the power that they saw that she actually did. And so a lot of females misunderstand the importance of their role within society as well. And that God has greater plans for you, even if you are not married or even if you are not getting the right spouse. God has greater plans for you, inshallah. Just a quick story of Sayyidah Fatima Masuma was that at the time when some people came to meet Imam al-Qadhim, he was not home, and so they left a note with some questions on it. Sayyidah Fatima Masuma actually answered all the questions, and upon them reading these answers, they were very satisfied with them, and she was actually only 6 years old at that time. Upon their journey, they met with Sayyid Imam al-Qadhim on their way, and Imam al-Qadhim then told her, Fidaha abuha, may her father be sacrificed for her, because he was very pleased and happy with the answers that she provided. And so again, it's this understanding that a female has such incredible attributes and roles to actually provide to society. And so I will end off with this beautiful quote, and the believer men and the believer women, they are the guardians to one another. They enjoin good and forbid evil, and they establish the regular prayer, and they pay the poet and obey God and his apostle, Prophet Muhammad. These God will bestow on them his mercy. Verily God is almighty, all-wise. Sadaqallah al-Ali al-Azim. And so if anyone wanted to reach me, please do so through this form of method. And thank you again for continuous support these 3 weeks. Thank you so much for the Lebanese Youth Foundation for this incredible opportunity. It truly is my honor to be with you guys in Sha'ban. And I kindly ask you guys to remember me in your du'as, my family and I in your du'as. And it was very much a pleasure.
Sorry, Huda, you were muted. We couldn't hear you.
Sorry about that.
If you can go again.
Yep. So thank you, Sahar. It's a pleasure to have you on. I was saying I always feel like having events and talks on Mondays is amazing because it gives such food for thought throughout the rest of the week. I know I'm going to be doing a lot of thinking now. The two things I thought were really stood out for me. Firstly, your emphasis on the importance of seeking knowledge and how that allows us to get nearer to Allah. And especially now that we're coming nearer to Ramadan, I feel like that's a personal goal of mine.
Yeah.
Seeking knowledge, reading more, discovering more. And also, I feel like that also helps you get to know yourself more and where you lack and where you need to develop. Another thing is self-development and self-improvement in order to have a harmonious relationship. And I feel like self-development is a reoccurring theme throughout Islam, and I feel like that's one of the many beauties of Islam. So go on.
No, Islam definitely asks that we don't stop at the sin that we have. Like, just because you might have a sin with listening to music, or actually a sin of envy or jealousy, you need to let it go. You need to obviously solve that issue and then let it go so that you can continue on. Like, never hold yourself at the point in which you always consider yourself to be envy, even if you're actually working on it and actually trying to remove it from yourself. So definitely, like, that idea of actually talking to yourself that, you know what, even though I may have some attributes of envy, I'm going to let it go, and I'm actually going to start talking to myself in a manner that it's okay to be something better than that. It's okay to actually allow myself to be a good person, for sure.
Definitely. And I think step number one in doing that is actually realizing our flaws.
Yeah.
And that can be accomplished through reading and seeking knowledge. So we have a question, and that's, what practical steps can a couple do to get closer to Allah? So you talked a lot about seeking nearness to Allah through the marriage. So what steps or actual things do you think couples can do together, or do separately, to get nearer to Allah?
So what's really nice if couples actually seeking closeness to Allah does not only have to be an understanding of prayer and worship through dua. We misunderstand sometimes when we say worship what that means. Worship does not only mean that you're sitting down and reading Quran and you're only praying together. Yeah, sure, that's very important. That's in order to actually become closer to Allah, you have to have that in your lifestyle. But worship can actually be in your intimate moments together, and in your ability to actually tell them that, you know, I'm going to take you out for dinner for Wiladat Imam Ali. For the birth of Imam Ali, I'm going to take you to, that's actually worship. When the wife is cooking and she says, I'm going to cook this while only doing Tasbihat Sayyidah Fatima. Again, you're now taking this idea of you stirring the pot, making soup, instead of you saying like, oh my God, I'm such a slave in this house. He always makes me cook and clean. And now you're thinking, I'm going to do this while doing tasbih, so it can be, it can have this essence to it. It can feed the soul. This becomes a form of worship. And so it's actually the idea of actually doing your role as a form of worship so that you can become closer to each other. If I were to just tell you, wake up to Salah together and read Dua Kumail, yes, those are important. But first, see the foundation. Is your foundation put in place that your conceptualization of marriage is in its right definition? And it's practical ideas can be through everything. Everything can become a worship. Like for example, there's this. I think the most thing I've ever enjoyed doing with my husband is there's this TV show, Bab al Murad. It talks about Imam Hadi, Imam al Rida. And it's such an amazing TV show. Everyone should definitely watch it. It's a bit difficult because it's in Arabic. So I found it difficult because I couldn't understand all the words because it was like in like very strong Arabic. But it was such a beautiful thing that me and my husband can do that can actually make us stronger and see as a form of worship, even though we're watching television. But it's because you're gaining knowledge about Imam al-Rida and Imam al-Hadi. So again, everything can become a worship. Practical tips is really anything that they do that can serve their relationship better.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. So it's more about the intention behind the actions.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. It's honestly been an honor and pleasure to have you here. I know many people benefited. I definitely benefited myself, learned a lot of new things. Going to be doing a lot of reflections. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can have you on soon, inshallah. And keep
Inshallah.
us and keep
Thank you so
the
much.
Lebanese Foundation in your prayers and in your du'as throughout Ramadan. And thank you everyone for watching at home or wherever you are. I know some people are watching from work. Inshallah, we're going to have weekly events throughout Ramadan. And if you'd like to stay updated with those events, then please follow our social media accounts. And yeah, Assalamu alaikum. Take care.
Thank you.